Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks and to another beginners class in my little course. Now I do have a right-handed and a left-handed version, so I always put a link to the other one. So if you're in the right-handed, you'll find a link to the left-handed and vice versa. Just pop up along the top, so you can always click into that. I know many of you like to watch both of my videos, but that's lovely. Thank you very much for that. So this one is all about increasing and decreasing, and I've made some swatches, and I've got one for each of the stitches that we predominantly use, and that I have also done tutorials for in this beginners course. And this one is the UK double crochet, or a single crochet in the US. And we've also got one, this yellow one is a half treble, which is a half double. And this is our treble, which of course in the US is a double crochet. If that isn't confusing, I don't know what is, but I always mention them both in my tutorials, so it is clear for everyone. Okay, so the method of increasing and decreasing is it varies. It's not quite the same for each stitch, and I'll show you what I mean. Now sometimes you'll be asked to increase in the middle of a row, but quite often when you're doing something it might be at the end of a row or the beginning of a row. So I'm going to show you a few rows of each one and show you exactly how we do it. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and hopefully you'll be informed when new videos pop up. So this is just a little swatch that I made earlier, and it is just 15 stitches, and I'm using this is just a DK with a 4mm hook, but you know, it's just to show you. Okay, so just a little note on keeping your edges nice and straight. I've been asked for tips on how to do that. Now, if you watch my beginners swatches, when I first showed you these stitches, I showed you how I do my edges, and that always keeps them nice and straight. So if you watch those stitches, I know some of you might not want to because you think you've known those stitches already, but that's how I keep my edges nice and straight. So anyway, I do a chain. Have I already done the chain? No. Do a chain and I cinch it right down so I don't see it. I don't want to see that and have it confused with a stitch at all. And then I make sure the loop that's on my hook is nice and loose. We don't want it tight. So we go into our first stitch, as this is the UK double crochet, which is a single in the US. So we just do our stitch in the first one, and we want to make sure it's not tight, because that way we will see where that stitch is. So we just do one in there. Now sometimes it will ask you to increase your first stitch, or it might ask you to increase into the second stitch. That just gives a bit of a cleaner line than if you did two in this stitch. So we'll show you by doing that. We'll do two in this stitch, and then we'll do one in each one all the way to the end, which can be a little bit boring just watching me do that. So I'll pause it and I'll catch up with you when I get to the end, because I do have a few other swatches to show you, and it might get a bit tedious for you. Okay, so I've gone in each one. Now, like I said to you at the beginning, you might be asked to increase this stitch, which is the second to the end, or into the last stitch, which is this one. So we'll do our two in the last stitch. Now some patterns will say to increase on that round and then to do one row of normal, going in one in each. But if it asks you to increase at the beginning of each row, then that's what we do. So we're going to do our chain, cinch it down. Now this is our first stitch here, and it's going to look very odd. So we'll go into this one and we'll do our increase. This is what happens when you increase every single row. And again, we just do one in each of these. Now remember, a pattern that you're using might ask you to increase every fifth stitch or every sixth or whatever. So that is what we do to increase anyway. We just do 2 stitches in the one space, which is nice and simple. Can't really go wrong with that. You know what you're doing, making the stitches, so you just do another one. So I might as well just carry on as I've been talking. I'm almost at the end. And after a few rounds, you'll see that it does start to bow out. Okay, so we just got our last one, and we're going to do our increase. I need to pull out some yarn. Thought I had lots pulled out, but I was wrong. So I do my second one. Okay, so I'll take that out, and as you can see, it's now started to go outwards. And if we carried on, it would just carry on going outwards and outwards and outwards. Because it's only very small, we'll do another couple of rows and then we'll look at it. So there we are. It's very difficult to see. So this one here is your first stitch. I always, if I get confused, go in from the back like that, and then I know. So I'm going to pull it up so it's not confusing when I get to the end where my stitch is, and do my increase in the first stitch, and we'll carry on. I'll pause it this time, and I'll catch up with you when I get to the other end. Okay, nearly there. So there's one stitch, and there's our last one. Now, as you can see, it's getting very kind of, it's really splaying out, and it's quite a sharp, what's the word? Angle, that's the word. It's quite a sharp angle because we are doing 2 at each end of both rows. So that's why some patterns will say increase on the last stitch of every row. So you'll get an increase on the end of this one and an increase on the end, and it's more gradual. So that's what sometimes that you get. So now I'm going to do my chain and cinch it right down, and I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to show you a decrease. But before I do, I'm just going to do 1 in every stitch along for a couple of rows so that we can see the difference between our increases and our decreases. We need to get like a little line between them. So I'm going to pause the video while I do a couple of rows of just doing 1 in each for the time being. Okay, so as you can see, we have our, well, it looks a bit like a funnel going on. So I've increased, and I've done 2 rows so that the increases have kind of stopped and it's more straightforward to see. So here we are, we're at the end, and I'm going to do my 1 chain and cinch it right down. Some people don't do that. They just, or sometimes I don't do that. I'll just make my first stitch a bit longer, but I like to, I don't know why, just finish off that stitch so it's not affected. So if we were to then decrease at the beginning of this row and the end of this row, what we do with this particular stitch, because it is the smallest stitch, it's a UK double or a single in the US, we just go into our stitch as normal and pull up our loop. Then we go into the next stitch and pull up a loop, and we'll yarn over and pull through all 3 of them. So we've now made those 2 stitches into 1. And now we're going to go all the way to the end, doing 1 in each. Remember, this decrease might come up at any point in the row, depending on the pattern that you're using, or at just one end of the row, like the increase could be at one end of the row. Usually they're at the end if you're doing decreasing or increasing, but I'm showing you at each end anyway, just to sort of give you more experience of what it will look like. I won't bother with pausing it because we're almost there, and I need to pull more yarn. It's amazing, just a little bit of increasing made all those stitches. Okay, so we're now at the end. We're going to do the same thing, stitch in that one, and stitch in that one, and pull through all three, bringing them together. Now we turn our work, and we're going to do our chain, cinch it down, and we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to go into the first stitch and pull up a loop, into the second stitch and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all three of them. And then we're just going to go and do one in each of our stitches. I'm going to pause it this time because it will be boring just watching me go all the way to the end. Okay, so we're at the end. We're going to do the same thing, one in the first stitch, one in the next stitch, yarn over, pull through all three, and one chain and cinch it. We'll do one more decrease row. So again, nice loop so that you don't confuse it. Pull up through all three, and one in each stitch along. It should be getting less now, so it might not be such a long wait to get to the end. Looks like we've made ears at the edge of our work on this one, which gives you a bit of an idea what you can make with your just basic stitches with a bit of shaping. So we've got one more to do, and then we're going to do our increase. Now remember, decrease, what I'm talking about. Remember, you might not be asked to do those at the front and back of each row. So there you go, you're getting a circular kind of, you see what I mean? Got ears. Now, if you were going around this with maybe a row of UK doubles or single crochet, that would clean up the edges, or if you were sewing them together. So let me just show you when it comes to a pattern then. If this would be, let's see if you can hear my cat meowing. In the US, it would be a single crochet 2 together. In the UK, it's a double crochet 2 together. And that's what it would look like. So I'm going to pause the video for a second, because that's that stitch. I'm going to clear the stuff away, and I'm going to show you how to do it with the half treble in the UK, which is a half double in the US. Hi, so I'm back with my next swatch, which is the half treble UK, half double US. So I'm at the end of the row. I'm just going to do that and cinch it down. Now, sometimes you'll be told to chain 2, chain 1, and all that, but this is not the way I work. I don't have those ugly baggy chains at the end. So again, I make sure my loop isn't tight on my hook so I can see my stitch. Now, I have over the years seen 2 ways of doing this, and I've done it a 3rd way. So I'm going to show you each, and then you can decide which one you think looks better. So we're going to yarn over and go into the first stitch, because with all small stitches we go into this stitch. Now, one of the methods is to yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over, go into the next stitch and yarn over and pull up the loop, so you have 4 on your hook, and then you yarn over and pull through all 4. So you've in effect made those 2 stitches there and there into 1 stitch there. So I will show you again. Yarn over, go into the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 of them, leaving 2, yarn over, go into the next one, yarn over and pull up your loop, you've got 4, yarn over and pull through all 4. So that's one method, and I'm doing them because otherwise it's going to get very small. That's one method. The other is to yarn over, go into your first stitch and pull up a loop. So you've got 3 on your hook. Yarn over, go into the next stitch and pull up a loop. So you now have 5 on your hook, and you yarn over and pull through all 5. I'll do it again with you. Yarn over, go into the first one and yarn over and pull up the loop. Yarn over, go into the next one, yarn over and pull up the loop. 5 on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 5. So there you are, you've made those 2 stitches into one. So altogether those are 4 stitches, and now you can see there are just 2 left. Now for the longest time, I didn't like either of those. Sometimes I do, depends what I'm making. If I'm making a pair of baby booties and I want a nice big fat stitch to not make it look like there's not a big gap, I'll use that second method. But if it's quite a neat little piece of work and I don't want a big bulky what looks like almost a puff stitch, I have been known to yarn over and pull up a loop, go into my next stitch and pull up a loop. And I have 4 on my hook, sorry, I'll show you. 4 on my hook, yarn over and pull through all 4. Now can you see what a difference that makes? It's a much smaller stitch. I'll show you again. Yarn over, go into the stitch and pull up a loop as usual. But I don't yarn over, I just pop into the next one and pull up another loop, yarn over, pull through all 4. And as you can see, it's smaller. It still pulls those 2 stitches together. You still end up with 2 become 1, as the Spice Girls would say. But it's not such a bulky stitch, and that is completely up to you, which method you want to use. I've seen both on YouTube used. So the first one again, yarn over, go into the stitch and pull up your loop. So you've got 3. Yarn over, go into the stitch, pull up your loop, and there you are. You've got your 5 your loops on your hook, not hooks on your loop, but your 5 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. Do them side by side this time. We can get and contrast them. So we'll do a normal one in between. Okay, so our next one is to yarn over, go into that stitch and pull up our loop, yarn over and go through 2. Yarn over, go back into that next stitch and pull up your loop. So you've got 4 on your hook, yarn over and pull through the 4. We'll do one normal one in between the next 2. And now my one, yarn over, into the stitch, pull up a loop, pop it into the next stitch, pull up your loop, yarn over, go through all of them. Now we'll just do a couple of normal ones and see what you think when we look at them. There you go. This one, which is my method, don't want to blow my own trumpet or anything, but it's the far less kind of intrusive one to your work. It is hard to see. Let's see if I can zoom. So it's kind of the least bulky and the least obvious, whereas the first one there creates this big kind of bulky knot of them, and then the second one less, but it kind of makes it a tad taller because you've gone through 2, whereas mine, my own little invention there, hardly see it. So that's what I prefer to do, but like I said, it does depend on the work that I'm doing. So let's undo them. Let's undo them all. If I'm making baby booties, the first one makes a much fatter stitch, and that's what you might need when you're trying to hide the fact that you're shaping around that part of the foot. Oh, I'm really zoomed. Let's get out. Big hand. Sorry about that. So, you know, if your foot goes down like that and the instep and then it leads to where the toes are, you might be doing a decrease, if this was a foot, around that part, and you don't want it to look really holy. So to increase our half treble or half double, it's very simple. You just do 2 in the same stitch. That's all you do. And like with the other, the UK double, US single, quite often you will do it just at the end of one row. or in the middle, you might be asked to increase every so often. So it's just a case of doing 2 in one stitch and you have increased. Increasing is the easy one. You just do 2 in one stitch. But it's it's not so easy decreasing. But I'm going to leave it completely up to you which method that you prefer for whatever you're making. So if you're making something that's like this, I think if you don't want it to look absolutely obvious, my way hardly notices. Just saying. Anyway, that's increasing and decreasing on a half treble round. I didn't do a big swatch this time because there are lots to show you. I'll show you one more time and we'll see if we can work out what you think is best. So the normal method, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over into the next, another 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through all of them. And there you have what looks like a bit of a start of a star stitch. It's kind of got lots of lines coming off it. Let's do the other method. 3 loops on the hook, pull through 2. So you've already kind of made your stitch taller. Yarn over into the next one, pull up a loop, through all 4, and it's not a lot of difference between this one and this one. I think this one looks bigger than that one because you've gone through the 2. My method, pull up your loop as normal, pop it in the next one, yarn over and pull up a loop. You've got 4 and just pull through all of them. I prefer this one for a flat piece of work, and these 2, both of them would work if you're trying to decrease on the shoe area. So that is with the half treble, half double in the US. So that one then, we are in the UK, half treble 2 together. That is an R. In the US, half double crochet 2 together. That's how it's written. So then we just have one more swatch to do. I'm just going to pause it then, clear this away, and I'll come back to you with your treble crochet, which is a double in the US. Okay, so I'm back again, this time with the treble crochet UK or double crochet in the US. So let's just pop this down a little bit. Now I'm hoping this yarn is easy to see because it is a bright pink, fuchsia pink. Now we start always with our 2 chain on our treble rows. So if we were to be doing this at the end of each row, which is what it normally asks for, then we would go all the way along and do our decrease at the end. But if you had to do it at the beginning of your row, you might chain 1 and you yarn over and go into your first stitch. So normally speaking, when we're doing a treble row, we will not go into that first stitch, we'll go into the second stitch because those 2 chain count as our first stitch. Some people will tell you to do 3 chain, but for me that makes them too high. They're perfect height. So okay, if it was asking you to do it in the first stitch, then this is how I would do that. I would chain 1 and I'd yarn over, I'd go into my first stitch and I'd yarn over and pull up a loop as if I'm going to do a treble crochet or a double US, and I've got 3 loops on the hook and I would pull through my first 2 as normal and then yarn over, and then we're going to go into the next stitch along, yarn over and pull up a loop. So we've got 4 now on our hook, and we're going to yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through all 3. So we've made those 2 stitches into 1, just like the Spice Girls. 2 become 1 again. I'll show you one more time on this particular end, We yarn over, we go into the next stitch and we pull up our loop. Just as normal, we go through 2 by yarning over, pulling through 2. Then we're going to go into this stitch, we're going to yarn over, go into the next one, yarn over and pull up the loop. So we have 4 on our hook, and we yarn over and pull through 2, leaving those 3. So we've got this stitch and this stitch on our hook and the previous. And we're going to pull through all 3. So it pulls all 2 of those into the 1 stitch. We'll do it again. Yarn over, into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 of them, just the same as you start the usual UK treble, US double. Now we're going to yarn over, go into the next one with those still on our hook, yarn over and pull up the loop. So we have 4, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through the 3. So now we've got 3 stitches where we had 6, and you can see it's pulling them together. So that's possibly the easiest of all decreases. I think so anyway. I think that's the most easiest one to remember because it's very similar to the stitch that you know, because we use it all the time. So if we were to increase, then let's get it back to how it should have been. Okay, so we're going to turn over and we're going to do our 2 chain, which would start our row, which would count as our first stitch. If we were increasing, we'd just simply go into the same stitch so that we would have 2 at the start. And we've increased 1, and then we just go into each one. And if the pattern said to increase in the middle of a row or after every 5 stitches, we just simply do 2 in the same space and we increase. And that is ever so simple as well, isn't it? Much easier than trying to remember how to do the others. But that's nice and simple. So we'll decrease again. We yarn over. We're going to go into our next stitch. We're going to yarn over and pull up the loop. Yarn over and pull through 2, leaving 2 on our hook. From that stitch, yarn over, go into the next one. Yarn over and pull up the loop. Yarn over and go through 2. And they are sitting there all nice together. Yarn over, pull through all 3, and you've put them together. So that is as simple as it gets. So seeing those 2 written down is in the UK treble 2 together, or in the US double crochet 2 together. And that's also called a double crochet decrease, treble crochet decrease, depending on which side of the pond you live. And so you might hear those stitches called a double crochet decrease, a half treble crochet decrease, a treble crochet decrease. So they're also called a decrease or treble 2 together, double crochet 2 together. The only thing that I will say to you learners is you do need to be careful when you start watching people on YouTube that that you know what terms they're using, and that you know if it's a US pattern and they're saying to you double crochet 2 together or double crochet, they're actually meaning a UK treble. So make sure that you have a good kind of chart written down. Either write your own, so that I always find if I write my own things, I remember them better than if I just look at somebody else's chart. So I would put it in the back of my little book, my diary, whatever I've got going. Just write them down and you won't go far wrong, because writing it down aids your memory. So that's increasing and decreasing. I hope it's been clear. And if you have any questions, by all means, pop them in the comment section below, because I always do read them. So thank you for watching. Stay safe, everyone. Take care, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.